Namaste. Welcome back to our channel. This channel is dedicated for those who are spiritual seekers wanting to know more about yourself, self-knowledge. You're at the right channel. And this is a lovely episode because we are now here accompanied by our special guest, a dear friend, Monica Dogra, who is an international artist. She is here right now shooting with us in this beautiful island of the gods, Bali, Indonesia. And of course, we're here accompanied by Guruji. Monica and Guruji, we never really did finish our talk from the previous episode. Would you like to elaborate more on, or continue? Yeah?
Yes. 3 things that I find so beautiful that you said.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget everything,
Okay.
so I'm going to try to say Atma Bhut,
Atma Bhut, yes.
Sva-Dharma,
Yes.
Loka Samgraha.
That's right.
And they have to happen in that order.
Yes.
Atma Bodh being?
The self-knowledge. And now this self-knowledge also brings you to free will, actually. Now, which self are you identifying yourself with? If you are identifying yourself with this body, then this body is perishable. I would not even say perishable now, but this body is changing. Even after my death, you burn my body, you cremate my body, the atoms will be there. The atoms are almost imperishable. So it's just changing form. Now, if you identify yourself with this body, then there comes another problem, because we want something that is sustainable. You know, this word sustainable is being used out of context nowadays. But the body is not sustainable. This world is not sustainable. So you have to go deeper, and then you identify yourself with your mind. And that has to be in that sequence also. When you identify yourself with the mind, then free will comes in. You have to really know what your mind is all about and how to get this mind to take care of your body. Their healing and all these different activities, yoga, everything comes in. But then yoga says you have to go beyond mind. Mm-hmm. And then when you go beyond mind, then you have a knowledge that, okay, this world is all Leela. It's a stage, like Shakespeare said. And the Vedic tradition has been saying this from last few thousand years, many thousand years, that this Leela, because otherwise you cannot justify why someone is so intelligent, so good, and born poor, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can get stuck in those stories.
You can get stuck in those stories. And Guru Nanak was visiting some village, and the village head was, I think the village head or something, but there were 2 different groups there. One group was very, very devoted, and they were very poor, but they were very devoted. And Guru Nanak said, in Punjabi, it's like, I bless you to scatter all over, to scatter, to leave your hearth, your homes, and to scatter. And another village, the village head was very rich, and he also served well, but he was very stingy, very miser, cruel. And Guru Nanak said, may you prosper in this village, and you always stay here. So you contend here, you don't go out and make havoc. And those people who are good, leave this. Why you are sticking to this kind of condition? Go and spread your message. So if you look at it from a worldly point of view, it's not fair,
Yeah.
But then if you look at it as a Leela, then everybody has its role. And it's beautifully depicted in Mahabharata, and this one is hardly ever discussed, that when everything was over, and the Pandavas also, they went to this state of transition which we call Swarga, heaven, and they found the Kauravas already there. So you're fighting them, we're doing all this, and then comes the vision that, look, they were doing their role so beautifully that to this date, 5,000 years later, we consider them as villain. So they played their role so beautifully. They can get a Grammy for that also. They can get Oscar for that also.
Yeah, I forget who it was, because again I have a terrible memory, but someone was saying that Ravana was actually an amazing,
True.
That's
like
the people
a really lovely
of
man.
Lanka.
And a devotee of Shiva. There were no Hindu, Muslims and Buddhists and Christians. All were Sanatanis. Rama was a worshipper of Shiva. He wants to kill Ravana.
What does Sanatani mean?
So the origin, Sanatana is eternal, the eternal Dharma that was there, that will always remain there, and it cannot be identified with an ism, whatever ism it is. If you reduce Hindu to an ism, Hinduism, then Sanatana is not that.
Yeah, I've heard Sanatana
Yeah,
Dharma.
Sanatana Dharma, that's it.
Vedanta.
And from her hometown, for instance, the Sundanese in Java is tens of thousands of miles apart, they consider their basic belief as Vivitan.
Vivitan, which
Vivitan
is
means
Sanatana.
Sanatana. Now Sanatana has two qualities. One is eternal, that's why Sanatana, and Nit Nutan. Every day it is fresh. So it can change its form, There is no rule, no scripture, no book binding you to this dress. Nobody was wearing kurti on jean. But it's okay now. It's okay. But if you go by any book, no, you cannot wear jeans. Kurta has to be with salwar.
Well, that sounds like it's the fallacy of the translation of text. Religious text is considering anything as absolute.
Absolute, yes. Vedas do not consider anything as absolute. They consider Rita. The word for Dharma in Vedas is Rita. Rita means the law of the nature. So if you are in harmony with the law of the nature, you are Sura. You are rhythmic. Sura is Sur, right? Sur, you are rhythmic. If you are not in harmony with nature, you are Asura. You are arrhythmic. So Asura we depict as demons and all that. They are not demons, they are just not in line, in rhythm with the nature.
Please correct me if I'm wrong. In this universe, in this world, is there any such thing that is constant or not? Or everything is inconsistent?
You are constant.
I'm constant. Okay.
That's another topic.
Because we're talking about text and all that, and you were mentioning with Sanatan, there's also Nitnutan, and while you were mentioning about text are like all fixed, cannot be changed. But then life is always
changing. That's why if you read Vedas, Vivekananda was even of the opinion that you forget Vedas. Close the Vedas because they have message that was relevant thousands of years ago, and now you go to Upanishad, Vedanta. He can say that, and we have no problem. Buddha can say, look, Vedas are nonsense, God is not there, Anatma, there's no self. We accept him. I put Buddha here. So this is Atma Bodh. When you know the role of Sva-Dharma, you know the role of this universe, you know Dharma, and then you know your role. And then if you have a problem with that role, go back to the director.
go back
Please. Director.
The director, okay.
Yeah. Go back to the director. God or nature? Nature.
Okay, but then in a modern context, if you say, figure out who you are, your Atma Bodh, how?
Meditation. Nothing. There is absolutely no other solution, because whatever I say, all these things are my experience, and your experience could be different, although we'll get there, because at the end of the day, you will be in rhythm with the nature, and I shall be in rhythm, and then okay, Anand Krishna was making sense. At this point, maybe you are not making sense to me, I may not make sense to you, but once we are there, then we are there together.
The problem in this modern world is that a solution like meditation is not always acceptable, because basically we have lost our understanding from the very childhood about who we are, like our soul and all that, because we were never taught in school or by our parents that there is something, not just an outer layers, there's also something that's deep inside. And I'm not trying to say that we're blaming on the Western education and all that, But then that is the fact, the truth of history. There is a separation between the
state
and religion, and then mind, body, and soul, because during those times, soul has to be owned by the church. Basically, all religions we call it church, just like that. And it is separated from the body and mind. And so that's why we were never whole from the very beginning. And if we were, all these threes were never separated, then we would accept the concept from the very beginning, very childhood. What is meditation all about? About regulating the prana. We cannot live without breathing. That's
eating right
without life force. And then if we do look into our practices, like pranic practices, basically it is going into deep inside the soul and understanding the mind. That's meditation.
True.
And of course we're not stuck in the mind, then we go beyond the mind. That's meditation. So it's difficult to explain it into the modern world that solution is meditation. Okay, it's nonsense, it's hocus pocus. It's because of the lack of understanding. It's like missing information in our education system.
We are, again, even meditators, we are stuck with the technique. This is very unfortunate. In my mother tongue, that is Sindhi, and I'm sure in your mother tongue also, Dogri, is it? Dogri, right? I'm sure Punjabi, Dogri, Pahari languages, in the around Manali and those. In those languages, dhyan, meditation, was never used as a verb. Meditation was an adjective. So my mother would say, eat meditatively, dhyan sa khaiji. Sing meditatively. So it's how you do your things.
All this is worship.
Yeah, that's it. All this worship.
Sure. It's just that part.
Yeah. I just hear, constantly everything that is said. Everything that I read leads me back to this concept of divine irony. It's like a child is born and you're taught that you're an individual. But remember, even though you're an individual with your own specific Atma Bodh, you're also not an individual. You're connected to everything, and actually you're not. But remember, So, and I think that's so confusing because now, in the modern world or industrialization, you're given concepts of what good is and concepts of what bad is, concepts of what beauty is, concepts of what it means to be a participating citizen, a good citizen of your country or your world. You're never really taught room to discover what that means to you. You're just more given this absolute concept that you either
do good thing or bad thing.
Assimilate into or you don't assimilate into. So I wonder if everything's just a joke because it's so... when you stop identifying, you have to laugh at it. It's like, Monica, remember that you're a singer and you're Indian, but actually you're not Indian, and don't identify with your ego, and actually it doesn't matter, and you're a part of everything.
Exactly.
How are you supposed to just...
I mean, do you have that experience? I mean, you were brought up outside, right, in the US, with all the education and all that, and now you're living in India, and you think yourself like, I have an Indian body, but maybe my it's just a packaging, maybe the inside is not Indian. So you get this confusion, because I experienced the same thing. Being an Indonesian, packaging is Indonesian, and then when you meet Indonesians, they will expect me to be Indonesian. Like, I presume it's the same thing with you also.
Absolutely.
Right? And then so actually that's a blessing in disguise, because from that on, because I'm thinking like, where do I belong? Who am I? And then I started searching, and that's when you introduced me that Atma Bodh, and then find your Sva-Dharma. So that's the beauty of it.
That's the other thing. There's I almost feel 100%, first of all, but to take that even further when it comes to, you, Archana, being Guruji's successor, very uncommon. Amongst most lineages, again, you can edit this out, but most lineages are men, number one. Also the idea of bhakti, and what does it look like to be a woman full of bhakti. I feel like translations of what it means to be spiritual or in in divine union with God has like an image that's been stamped on it that makes people feel like that's just not me, you know, that's just not who I am. So then they just stay away. Which is why actually the tool of using spiritualism or religion to control people is so powerful, because it's become so divisive. You say that one who believes in God or loves God dresses a certain way, looks a certain way, behaves a certain way. How do we start to like peel that off so that, I love what you said about expand, the I expands to include
you. One by one, it keeps on expanding.
Maybe you can explain about the analogy of the sun rays.
Oh yeah, that is about, that's different context maybe, but yeah, it can explain this Atma Bodh thing, you know, that there is sun and there are sun rays. Sun rays are entering into this hall and there is sunlight outside. So although you have three different words, sun rays, sun and sunlight, can you separate them actually? You cannot separate them. You cannot package the sun rays and the sun rays. Sunlight.
Yeah, but doesn't that mean like the sun rays that is like entering all the different rooms and so all that? That's like individual I-ness. But then if we realize that this I-ness is actually a part of that sunlight.
Sunlight is part of sun.
It's including the you, right? I am including you. And then eventually it will lead to the sun itself.
Exactly. And you know, when I was writing, I was interpreting Rumi in Indonesian. I was saying that Rumi is like somebody in the room, and then he is looking through the open window. Now the world that you see, I didn't see the world, the sky that you see through the open window is just that much sky. But at least you are seeing the sky, and you may have a reference that sky is limitless, but you are looking at the sky through that panel only. But if you go and approach this window and you try to look beyond what the window is, you can see a bigger picture. That Akash, that sky is not that limited. And if you leave the room and you go outside, you see the limitless. So these are stages in our being, and Atma Bodh must necessarily pass through those stages.
So this occur according to our sight, the perspective.
Your sight, yeah. And those three stages in Atma Bodh, again, they are one continuum, you know. When you're, interacting with your family, you cannot be interacting using the limitless. Very difficult. So there you have your free mind, you have your mindfulness, you have your mind, you have to use everything. All these equipments given to you are to be used.
I'm thinking about the situation of, take coronavirus for instance. You live in a country where in the neighboring village 10 people have been diagnosed, and then the solution becomes to quarantine and separate. People, when they go into survival mode, they hoard, then they protect. We hoard our resources when we feel like resources are running out. And when people are sick and dying and we can't figure out how to cure it, we just build a barrier around them and we stay away. Are there any concepts in Sanskrit or in Vedanta that can like talk about this process of because from a philosophical perspective, I think, I should go to the village and I should try to cure all these people, but then I'll get sick.
Exactly.
So, and it's the same with war or the riots in India. I want to be an activist and I should just go out, but people are being shot. And you know, there are lathis, but then at the same time, if you stay inside, then in a way your lack of participation is condoning the violence. So wall after wall after wall.
If you cannot swim, Don't try to save somebody from drowning. Shout, scream, and
Call for help.
seek help. Seek help from others. But again, it comes to this Sva-Dharma thing. I think is very important to contribute in the way that where you have your skill, you have your own potential. Not to follow the crowd. Let not the crowd decide for you that this should be your role. I have some very good friends, and they feel that my role should be different. No, I know my role, and this is my role. Mm-hmm. I should be on the streets. I used to be on the streets with all you guys. But then I saw that this is not helping. Mm-hmm. I was on the street, the front line, protest and all that. But then I was not weakened by beatings that we got, no, but I realized that this is not helping because we are actually, playing the role that the politicians want us to play. Right. All these protests and all that, at the end of the day, you'll be surprised, all these politicians, maybe they're having lunch together.
That's ironic. We're fighting
we
there.
have seen those things. We have seen those things.
And then the masterminds are just having coffee, having lunch
this is
together.
For them is a negotiating factor.
It's nothing personal.
Nothing personal. It's negotiating factor. I've seen those, and then I realized finally, okay, they sit together and they say, look, I've got these groups, and you have got that group. It's negotiations.
And then we are trapped in those games.
Yeah, we are trapped. So I refused to be trapped in that game, and I chose this path that, okay, let us bring about awareness. Mm-hmm. That's what Aurobindo did. If you heard the name Aurobindo, he did that. He didn't speak for 40 years, and you're lucky that I'm still speaking to others, but I'm going to do that. No, he locked himself in a room for 40 years.
I only just met you, Guruji.
He locked himself in a room for 40 years. Yeah.
And that served a purpose?
Sorry?
For the 40 years?
Well, he was writing books, and those books are...
And the message went across.
Yeah. And Mother, the French lady, she was actually putting those works. If you read Aurobindo, it's very difficult to read Aurobindo. One sentence can be like five lines with small fonts, It's difficult to read them. But the Mother really articulated it and put it in a very simple context how to achieve that. The idea of Superman. Superman came from Aurobindo. The word Superman, the word Superman came from him.
That's going to be another topic, because
describing
because we find lots of ancient findings in the not Vedic tradition. I think it's in the Sindhu civilization about those superhuman Superman thing. That's for another topic, though.
So the answer is always just meditation.
Meditation, again, not to get stuck with one
idea,
definition or one technique. That meditation is necessarily you have to sit in Vipassana for 18 hours a day for so many days. Now, Buddha's, I'm happy that he did not talk about soul, but because if he had a soul, he would be crying over this situation because he never advocated 18 hours a day. He was jalan, he was vihar, he was going from one city to another, speaking to people.
And just the very act of speaking to people and traveling was his meditation.
That was his meditation. But then again, he told Mahakashyap, he told Anand, he told all his disciples, you go here, you go there, you do this, you do that,
I love that. That's really beautiful. If you can tell anyone, just start your day with offering everything that you do as an offering. Yeah. Then everything you do becomes a meditation.
A meditation itself.
True. Start your day with love. Fill your day with love.
And
your day with love. That is the way to God. We had this song.
That makes sense to me. Every time I think I'm going to push you in a corner, there's an answer. And the answer is always so simple.
It is.
Simple, yes.
Why are we so complicated?
Oh, it's the mind. It's the ego. It doesn't like simple solutions. I always tell that to people, like our problem seems very complicated, and our mind, our ego expects to have complicated solutions. But then we give a very simple answer, and we say, "That's it." I said, "Yeah, I know the ego doesn't like it, but that's what it is."
But again, there's that divine irony that can both be, depending on how you want to look at it, it's like, yes, you are a sovereign being who can live however you want to live, but it's difficult to not be affected by the ways that everyone around you lives and what they're doing. And again, I mean, I believe I'm quite a faithful person, and I'm around intellects, who will always try to put me in a corner as saying that being a spiritual person is a cop-out. When it's not happening to you, it's easy to say, and once it happens to you, it's difficult to dig yourself out of those situations. And I am a person of privilege, and that is true. I'm not being beaten on the streets. I don't know what it's like.
It's one way, yes, and the other way, like, look at us. I think we similarly, we consider ourselves as people of privilege also, because we were right in the world, We were worldly people. I was running an industry with all kinds of problems. And so when I see all these things now, all the gurus and all that, sometimes I refuse to be called a guru. I'm just a friend.
But you can't decide how other people call it.
Exactly. That beats me. That beats me.
Okay, so how do we wrap it up? So that was wonderful talk, wonderful conversation, actually. Starting from the previous episode, it goes here and there, but then finally the solution is so simple, wasn't it? It's all about meditation.
True.
Actually, I wanted to add something more. I forgot. There was one more. You were mentioning that it's so difficult in the way you think that we're a sovereign being, but then people around us, like we get influence on all those things. Another solution is because all this is full of energy. Satsang.
Satsang, yes.
Satsang is very important. Basically, what we're doing here.
This is satsang.
Is satsang. So thank you so much for this talk, for this episode, and hopefully we'll have more of it. Namaste.